NCR Voyix, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, is a technology company serving the retail and restaurant industries and transforming the future of commerce. But behind all of the software and services we deliver, we have our people. While we're headquartered in Midtown Atlanta, we've got offices and employees around the globe working in engineering, research, design, strategy, and more. With our talented and diverse employee population and exciting and cutting-edge work they do, we wanted to explore each of our employees better on an individual level and take a deep dive with them, not just a quick look. Welcome to Not Just a Quick Look. I'm your host, Jenny Reinick. Great. Okay. So I'm here today with another great NCR Voyix employee, Jeremy Thacker. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. So start us off by sharing what it is that you currently do in your role here at NCR Voyix.
So my current role is Vice President of Service Delivery for what we call NAMER, which is North America, US, and Canada predominantly. I'm responsible for the services organization that delivers endpoint serviceability for our clients. So if it's broke, we send our break fix workforce out, we fix it. If it needs installed, we send our installation workforce out and we fix it.
That was a very good explanation. I think that it was very easy to understand. But if you had to explain what you do to a small child, how would you describe it?
I would say we are the maintenance technicians that fix our clients' equipment when it breaks.
Excellent. Yes. The fixers. Bob the Builders.
Bob the Builder. There you go. Bob the Builders.
So tell me the story of how you ended up at NCR originally and how your role has kind of transformed and grown over the years.
So I joined NCR in 1996 as a contingent, what we call buffer contract employee. NCR found me through my college. I was in the retail segment. I was the general manager for a customer we used to support called Kmart. And I had in 1994, I got my first computer, and I was brought into the AOL, the dial-up internet. If you're old enough to remember dial-up internet.
I am.
And I remember, I told our CEO this. I remember when I did my first AOL experience, I said, this is it. This is the future. This thing's going to get fast. People are going to start shopping online. Computers are the tomorrow. And I knew I have to get into computers. I have to get into the IT industry. That is a retirement platform. That is a future for tomorrow. So I started going to college, even though I was already very well positioned in the Kmart organization in the retail segment. I was willing to take a career step back to grow. So I started going to college. I knew I wanted to get a degree, and I went to college for actually computer programming, software programming. While I was there, NCR was recruiting for Y2K. They had a bunch of computers for hospitals they needed to replace. They had this high availability services, which did computers and networking, and they were recruiting from the college. And my instructor pointed me out to them because they were looking for someone who was willing to put in the hours, work hard, do the grind, if you will, but wasn't afraid to get their hands dirty because it was a lot of manual work. And the instructor said, it's probably going to be a huge pay cut for him, but he wants to get in the IT industry and he wants to learn. And they met with me and they talked me into meeting with them. And I had 3 interviews with them. And what sold me on NCR was during those interviews, every one of the engineers, I went to one of their lunch socials. It was around Christmas time when I first met them. And I was literally the youngest person there. Everybody there was in their 40s, 50s, 60s, had already had a long career with NCR, and we're all talking about retirement. And I was like, this is it. This is the future. This is what I want to do. I have to get in with this company. So after the 3rd interview, they were like, what would it take to get you here? And I said, I'll come work for you. I'll take the hit. I'll come work for you. And I started as a contractor. I gave up all my benefits, took a huge pay cut, started at the ground floor bottom. And over the course of the next 4 years as a contractor, we we went through Y2K and we took out a whole bunch of DOS computers, put in a bunch of Windows. At the time, it was Windows NT. We installed a bunch of domain controllers, servers, networking, high availability stuff. The company made millions of dollars on this large hospitals, 3 hospitals here in West Virginia where I live. And we installed literally every floor, every computer, every server, every networking. We did it all. And there was 3 of us. And we just worked round the clock, daylight to dark, all day, every day. Around 2000, I got converted to full-time. It was after about 4 years, there was enough retirement coming in that I finally got in as a full-time CE, and I stayed here in West Virginia working as a full-time CE and progressed through the ranks. So after I got in the door, I knew I would climb, and I knew it was just a matter of putting in my time, going through the paces, and becoming the next person in line. And literally, I mean, from the year 2000 to 2003, I did the CE thing. And then in 2003, I became the territory manager for the CEs that actually mentored me. So my mentors became my employees. It was super awesome. And it was a bit of a journey for me because I had to learn to win their trust in a different way because I went from the employee to the boss. But it's been a great journey ever since. The whole entire time I've been in service delivery. Even when I was in account support, that was a part of service delivery. I've had many different roles, from the CE to the territory manager to I think we call them field operations senior managers now, service general managers and VP. I literally went step by step up through the ranks, and have been very privileged to be in the right place at the right time and earn the right respect from the right person to move into that next role. And it's been an absolute awesome journey that anybody can do. If I can do it, anybody can do it. You just have the right mindset, communicate properly, and always, no matter the situation, be positive. That's the major key. But that's how I found my way here. They were actually recruiting from a college. It was great.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, so that is quite a journey. Very interesting that it was around Y2K time for the people younger than me listening to this. Y2K was the time that it turned over from 1999 to 2000. So can you talk, Jeremy, a little bit about why Y2K affected those hospital computers and why they had to be replaced?
Yeah, so the end of the world was coming as everybody projected it. What had happened was people had become hooked on computers. So Y2K, had people not developed computers as early as they did, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But when they first developed a computer, to keep it very simple, computers have main boards and main boards have BIOS, or low-level machine code that tells the computer board how to operate, how to move data across the boards to the different components. That BIOS was only developed with a 2-digit year code, because when people first developed computers, they weren't thinking about Y2K. They were thinking about today is 1985, and 85 is your year. They weren't thinking about what happens when you go from 1985 to 2000. Well, all of those older computers that weren't able to be upgraded, some of them you could upgrade, you could flash the BIOS, make it a 4-digit year compatible device. But the majority of them you could not, because they were already end of life and there was no upgrading them. So it became you have to replace it strategy. A very costly you have to replace a strategy, and a very lucrative strategy for NCR Voyix at the time, because we were developing the computers and we manufactured computers and servers at the time, and we had to replace it. And it was so sensitive that the hospitals, there were 3 major hospitals, Women's and Children's, General, and Memorial Division here in West Virginia, that we serviced, and there was 3 of us. During the Y2K week, pre and post, we literally stayed at the hospital in the doctor's ER lounge, in the doctor's rooms. We got to stay on site. And it was such a time when there was so much nervousness and anxiety that the night of Y2K, when the rest of the world was out partying, we were on site at the hospital waiting for whatever was about to happen. And it was literally a non-event. Not a single service call happened. We had replaced every single component. Everything was working as it was. We tested everything. Their IT department was awesome, and it became a non-event. But for a while, everybody was convinced the world was going to stop. And for the most part, the world didn't stop. The planning worked out flawlessly. And it just goes to show something so simple as a 2-digit year code makes all the difference between things functioning or not. But it was a great time for me. I learned a lot in those 4 years I was ramping up, and Y2K really helped me progress and fast track my career.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. I remember that time, and I remember everyone saying planes were gonna fall out of the sky
Yeah, yeah,
right at midnight.
yeah.
And
Like air
I was a
traffic
kid.
controllers
I
were
was
going to
just a kid,
fail.
but I was scared. I was like, "Oh no, like I'm
Yeah.
so young and the world's gonna end already."
It's like waiting on, the end of the world to come, and it never came. And it was great because there was such celebration afterwards.
Yes.
IT departments, all the money that was spent was forgotten at that moment. It doesn't
Right.
matter what you spent. It doesn't matter who you had to engage. It worked, and people were in the operating room during that time that had to have emergency surgeries, and those computers working was critical. And it was just, you just kind of felt cool. I was like, I was a part of that. And now that's
Yes.
over. That chapter's closed. What's the next chapter? And we got to, open a new page.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the whole world breathed a sigh of relief at 12:01 a.m.
Yep, they did.
Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about your background, like where you're from originally. And then you mentioned that you went to college. Where did you go to college?
So, um, I was born here in West Virginia. I've lived literally all over the eastern half of the United States from Oklahoma east. When I was younger, my father was an ordained minister, and he was a traveling minister. He would go, the Church of God would put him in churches or congregations, as they called them, that were struggling. And my father would go in and build the congregation, turn it over to a new pastor. We'd move to another location. So as I grew, literally every year I was in a different city, everywhere from Florida all the way up to Maine, all the way over to Oklahoma. And that's where I learned to communicate. That's why I credit that to my ability to talk to anybody at any time openly. I'm a talker. Most people who know me know that I communicate, and I do that through verbal and physical cues. And I learned that because I had to grow up meeting new friends almost yearly, weekly, and it taught me that socialization. You can't meet new friends if you don't reach out, you don't expose yourself, you don't grow. So I was born here in West Virginia. I've lived all over the place. I've moved for the company 5 times in my career. I lived in Peachtree City, Georgia for a while. I lived in Indianapolis, Indiana for a while. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for a while, and then was able to move back home here in West Virginia. Lived in Dayton for a short period of time when corporate was in Dayton. It's been a pretty good journey moving around, but I love home. I love West Virginia. I love the simple life. I love the country. It's where my family, it's where my roots are. But as we work in the big city environment, and as we do our daily grind and taking care of our customers and keeping things moving, being home here in the country where life is a little more simpler, and you can get a change of scenery, change of pace, is really, 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 it's important to me. I like the quietness of it and the less complexity, less city life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a friend who works at universities and she lived in, I'm probably going to say it wrong. She lived in Buchanan, West
Buchanan, West
Virginia.
Virginia, up around Morgantown. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yeah, she worked for, I think it was Wesleyan University.
Yeah. Yeah. Wesleyan. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I went and visited her there. But yes, I visited her while she was living there, and it is very quiet and peaceful and also very beautiful. It's a very beautiful part
Pretty
of the
country.
country. And I think I visited in springtime, so there's like a lot of mountains,
Everything's
but they were
green.
all green
Yeah.
mountains. It was very
Yes, and no
gorgeous.
pine, not a lot of pine pollen either, like you get in Atlanta where everything's green. It's not like
Yep.
that here. You get other pollens, but not a lot of pine pollen. Um,
Yes.
I did go to West Virginia State University here in West Virginia. I received my degree.
Hmm.
My degree was in computer programming of all things. So
Hmm.
I specialized in COBOL programming, and Java and C++ were just coming out my senior year. But assembler language back in the old Unix days, if you,
Hmm.
to date myself a little bit, things weren't GUI interfaced. It was more machine code driven. Like you'd need 4,000 lines of code to move data from one database to another database. It was very manual, and it helped me, even though that's not what I do today.
Hmm.
When we have problems, or when I was a technician and we would have software problems, having that coding knowledge to know how things are developed to move move data in the background actually helped me progress in my career because I could kind of think things through from a different dimension versus just all hardware or hardware all the time. Sometimes software kind of masks itself as a hardware issue, and it just helped. It just helped.
Yeah, definitely. I could see how that could come in handy, having that knowledge. Um, what is a futuristic invention that you wish existed right now and why?
So that depends on what you're asking for. When I think inventions, I think more medical inventions. I really would like to see a futuristic invention of technology or machinery or even necessarily medicine that fights and cures cancer. Just
Absolutely.
simply because I've had so many family members, including my father, get cancer, and by the time they find out it's the silent killer, it's too late. And I've seen it take so many people early, and it seems like it's getting worse. Maybe it's our diet, maybe it's our atmosphere, but I would like to see more medical advancements to help take care of cancer. Now, as far as mechanical advancements, what a lot of the technology already exists today, but I would like to see a little bit more technology advance in space travel. Even though that
Hmm.
won't necessarily help people in my lifestyle or my lifetime, but just being able to go, I think humans will continue to progress. And I'm a little bit of a Trekkie, Star Trek type
Hmm.
person,
Hmm.
but I think us just exploring our galaxy, learning more, getting more closer pictures, so we can see the universe. I think it will help people on Earth progress better and become more united, less friction, less hostility, because we're all stuck on the same rock.
Yep.
And once we learn and we develop technology to help us get off the rock, at least explore around the rock, I think it will open our eyes to the bigger thing. And I think the world will kind of settle and you'll see more peace in the world and less hostility. So that would be my answer. Cancer for medicine and more space travel for the rest of the mechanical world.
Yeah, those are great answers. I agree. It would be nice if there was an easy and inexpensive way to just quickly check if you have cancer in you. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, there isn't. And that would make early detection so much easier as well. Um, you talked a little bit about the project you worked on uh, at the hospitals and the feeling of success you had through that project. Can you share another project or accomplishment from your time here that you're really proud of?
Yeah. So outside of Y2K, I've had a lot of career high points, and I could probably tell you all day all the things that made me smile. But most recently, most of our employees will be aware of this. Most recently, the company separated into two companies, NCR
Mhm.
Voyix and NCR Atleos. And there was a lot of people involved in that separation, all of which I think did an absolute fantastic job. I had the honor and the privilege of being one of a few of us that had to separate the US and Canada field workforce.
Mhm.
And what does that mean? It was about 4,400 to 4,500 people that we had to take every zip code in the US, all 44,000, some of them, in every province in Canada. And we had to take all of our people and plot where they all were in every one of those zip codes and provinces, what work they did, and which company they would go to based on that work. And then once we identified that, we had to then develop two dispatch structures, two territories, because it wasn't a complete perfect overlap. The reason I tell you that whole story is we had to determine where every employee went without any of us knowing which company we were going to. So you had to do it
Right.
without any bias. What's the right thing to do if you're in this company? What's the right thing to do if you're in that company? When we flipped the switch, it was like Y2K. It brought back Y2K. I had all the anxiety going into it. Is this going to work? Did we do it right? A second guessing
Right.
myself, checking everything. When we turned it on, I was so proud of my management team. When we turned it on, there was literally no service calls fall through the crack. Our field support center and our CEs just handled business, and no customer went without service that day. There were no service calls that we just dropped the ball on. So we did it right. We did it right the first time. And all the people that were involved, once we identified who went where, all the IT people that helped us get things stood up, all the FSC people that helped us with the maps and aligning the zip codes. It was flawless. And I would say for me, that was probably my career high because I actually contributed to the company splitting, and it was perfect execution. And I mean, perfect. I was so proud of the teams. Everybody knew what team they worked for. Everybody knew what their CE codes were. Everybody knew how to get their service calls. Parts were flowing. And when you simplify that from the outside, you look and you go, oh yeah, they just split. But on the inside, when you understand the nuts and bolts of what needed to happen, 44,000 zip codes had to be aligned to two different companies, and C's had to be aligned to each zip code. It was a lot of work, um, months of work. And for me, that was my second career high of a massive project that I was a part of that was flawless. It was I called it the Y2K moment. This is Y2K moment. It's
Right.
perfect. And we went right into peak season. We split right before peak season. We went right into peak season and we set records the first year. The teams did a fantastic job recovering, and we really did the right thing by the company and our customers, and we made it a non-event for our customers. And that's the most pleasing thing is they were all worried about what's going to happen if you fall. We ain't gonna fall. We got it. We're not gonna fall. We got it.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that it was right before peak season because it was in October of
Yeah.
2023. So that's quite the litmus test to
Yeah, it
make
was.
sure that everything was done correctly.
Learn to ride the bike without the the props. No training wheels.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that was also a career high for me as well because not a lot of people can say they worked on the legal separation of a company. And now anyone who's here and who was here during that split and worked on the split can say that. So definitely a good example.
It's a great time. A lot of anxiety,
Um,
but a great time.
yeah, yeah, there was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but it paid off in the end.
It did.
What is your favorite thing about your role here at NCR Voyix?
Talking
Hmm.
and thinking. My job is not to turn the screwdriver anymore. I realize that. I still love to do that, by the way. I
Yeah,
still work on my own vehicles, my own house. It's just the way I'm wired. I'm a hands-on type person, but what I enjoy is talking to people, explaining what I need from them, and why I need it. And my most favorite thing is finding talent. I surround myself with talented people because I can't be successful if I don't have a team behind me or in front of me or beside me. Um, I get in there with them, but I try not to be a micromanager or a focus manager. I try to be a team player of this is what I need us to go do. Let's operationalize how we do it. That's my favorite part of the job is just watching people progress, get through those moments like I've had. At the end of the day, I'm not going to work another 20, 30 years. I don't have it in me. So my most favorite thing is watching who's going to develop and how can I help them to develop to take my role when one day I decide I'm going to retire. I do plan to retire from NCR Voice. I told our CEO that. I do plan to stay here. I do plan to retire. Hope things work out that way for us, and I hope we can progress in that way. And my job is to get a team ready. So there's not just one person to pick from. There's multiple people to pick from who can replace me, and that's really what I enjoy the most is just that communication, talking, and planning.
yeah, it's definitely rewarding to mentor younger people as they come into the company and, like you said, see who the talent is and who could potentially take your place one day.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're handy and you like to work on your house and your car. What other things do you like to do for fun outside of work?
So I'm an avid sportsman. I do when the occasion presents itself. I do like to hunt a little bit. I do like to fish occasionally. My biggest hobby right now, I would say, is my daughter and my wife. When I'm not working for NCR Voix or I'm not doing handy stuff around the house, um, I just spend as much time with them as I can and watch my daughter grow. She's 18 now, so I know I'm on borrowed time before she starts sprouting wings. And I
Right.
appreciate that time much more now than I realized I would. when she was younger, you kind of take things for granted and you're like, oh, they're going to be here. But then you snap your fingers and they're like graduating high school. And you're like,
Right.
oh no,
It went by so quick.
yeah. What happened to the last 18 years? But I just enjoy watching her progress and grow. And I get my favorite thing is just watching her be happy. Um, that makes me happy just knowing she's happy and she's got a future and she's progressing.
Awesome. Is she graduating high school this in the next month
She
or two?
graduated high school early. She got to go to school early, so she started at 5. She graduated high school at 17, and she's now in veterinary college, which is a little bit of a long
Ooh.
journey for her. So she's
Yeah.
always wanted to be a vet since she was a kid, and she collects a lot of animals. She's an animal hoarder. Everyone that has a case issue, she brings them up. She brings them in, and she collects them. So I'd say probably over the next 4 or 5 years, she'll get her veterinary license, and then I think it's 8 years to her master's. She's got a long journey to get through veterinary school. So maybe I can keep her home a little bit longer.
Right, right, exactly. What are some of the pets that she has collected?
Oh, she has several dogs. We have a stray cat. We have a couple lizards, which I'm not a fan of. She has a couple hamsters, and she's down to 1 guinea pig. She was up to 4. She has quite a bit of animals she has to take care of. It's her little clique.
Right.
As long as she's happy, they don't really bother me much, and I usually am distanced from them where I work anyway, so it's not much of a problem. But they all have a story, and every one of them was like one of her animals is blind and deaf, and he's just completely 100% dependent on her, and he's got a sense of smell, and that's it. He has
Aw.
no other senses. But he was going to be snake bait at a local pet shop, so
Oh, wow.
right place, right time. She picked him up, and he's so ugly that she thinks he's cute. But he'll have a forever home here with her as long as she's around.
Did she name him Helen Keller?
Yeah, I don't know what she called the thing. I call him Ugly Fugly, but she calls him Gizmo or something like that.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
He doesn't bite her though. I guess he can smell her. He senses her and
Right.
smells her.
He knows when it's her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What advice would you give to a younger person who's just starting out in their career?
So that's a good question. It's scary when you first are getting started, and especially when you're not thinking about retirement when you're young. You're not thinking about what happens when you get older. I would offer a couple words of wisdom from somebody that's learned the hard way. Save as much as you can early. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a 401k. You can put it in savings, you can put it in stocks, you can put it in bonds, you can just put it in your checking account. But live below your means. It's what I do. It's not how I started, but it's how I do now. Live well below your means, put money away, and work hard. Especially in a career journey with a company, you're going to have good years, you're going to have bad years, you're going to have moments when you question, is this the right company? It's just going to happen over time. What I would encourage is keep your goals focused. And what I tell everybody, my biggest secret to financial success when I was younger was I put every single bill in a spreadsheet, and I documented every single payday, what bill I wanted to pay and needed to pay. And I stuck to it, and I paid extra on everything, and I paid everything off much, much faster by sticking to a budget. When I had lots of overtime, I didn't spend it. I took that money and paid it towards the house. I just, I, for lack of better words, I grinded it out. Stick with the company, stick through the good times, bad times, work hard, know where you want to go. Not everybody wants to be a CEO. My mentor was a CE his entire career, Gary Godby. He was okay with that. He was perfectly fine with that. That's all he aspired to do. He wanted the work-life balance. He didn't want the executive role, but he supported me there. And I stayed in contact with him all the way through to when he retired. And I still am in contact with him today, along with many of the other CEs that used to work for me. They all still reach out to me today on social media. Work hard, be open, know where you want to get, know that the person working with you may aspire to get a higher role or maybe a lower role, but support them and just grind it. No job's going to come to you as a handout. If you want to grow and you want to progress, you want to be a territory manager, you want to be a service general manager, you have to put yourself in a position where you're the number one choice, where everybody says, we got to have a new TM for this area. Oh, that's easy. It's Jenny. Jenny does everything. Everybody reaches out to Jenny. You want to make yourself marketable, known, and you get that through respect and hard work. You don't get it through the easy path. It's always the hard path. So my biggest advice is start early, bank early, work hard, and earn it. And you'll set yourself up for early retirement. You'll set yourself up for a great life. And if you have enough luck with it all, you'll set yourself up to where you can support whatever type of family you want to have. If you choose to have one, you'll be able to financially take care of things, but it doesn't happen overnight. That's the biggest thing when you first get started. You want everything. You go in debt for everything. You have to have everything now. That was probably my worst out of the gate start. My wife and I went too deep, too fast, and we were both working executive jobs, and we were just barely making ends meet. I'm like, we don't need a Corvette. We don't need a 4-story house. We don't need a pool. Why do we have all this stuff? And we downsized. And that, especially in today's economy, that's the biggest advice. Don't bite off more than you can afford. It's not worth it, and you'll spend years regretting it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great advice. And I think it's also easier now than ever to spend because I'll find myself scrolling on my phone and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I bought it on my phone. I didn't even have to get out my credit card, just Apple Pay. And it's like, okay, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. It's too easy to buy things now.
It is. My daughter's a big Temu fan, and
right.
I think she owns stock in Temu at this point because there's always packages coming to the house, but I kid her all the time. But it's so digital marketing has made it so easy. Like when you talk about things, all of a sudden your feeds start showing up with those advertisements, and it just makes you want to do that impulse buying. Right. And a lot of times when you buy that stuff online, you're actually going to pay more for it because it's an impulse buy and you don't shop around. And, over time that adds up. It catches you. It really does.
Yeah. And so often, something that I buy on my phone, I'm like, I didn't even need that. Why did I buy that? So it helps to take a second to just be like, wait, do I really need this item, or am I just trying to make myself feel better temporarily? So yeah, that is excellent advice. And I definitely relate. I agree that not everyone wants to be a CEO, and that's okay. You just got to know what you want and go after it. So
be the best at what you want. Strive to be the best at what you want.
Exactly. Excellent. Well, Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us on Not Just a Quick Look today. We really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you for having me, and have a blessed Tuesday.
Not Just a Quick Look is a production of NCR Voyix Corporation. Thank you to all of our NCR Voyix employees who have participated as a guest on the show. Our producer is Julia Ogilvie. Our editor is Mattia Yermich. Our theme music is by Clay Jenkin. Our cover art is by Ariana Cole. Our website is ncrvoyix.com. That's ncrvoyix.com. Any opinions stated in Not Just a Quick Look are those of the podcast guest and or host, not NCR Voyix Corporation. Subscribe to our show to get updates about new episodes. Thank you for listening to Not Just a Quick Look, available wherever you get your podcast. Copyright NCR Voyix Corporation 2025. All rights reserved.